this video is going to be my updated version of how I highlight and contour. The last highlight and contour video that I did, oh my god, like, let's talk about rude comments. Let's talk about, like, people just being, like, completely and blatantly, like, rude. Like, okay, I'm only 20 years old for one. I don't know if you guys know, I'm 20 years old. I've been wearing makeup, like, for a very long time, but, like, making video-wise, I've been making videos for pretty much, like a year and a half, maybe 2 years, maybe. Like, not persistently, not good quality. Like, I just started, like, learning, like, pretty much learning and understanding makeup and everything like that. So, like, when I made that video, like, I did what I thought I knew was correct. You know what I mean? Like, and obviously everyone has their own personal opinion and, like, their own personal thoughts on how to highlight and contour, like whether it's too much, too strong, not enough. You know, everyone has their own personal opinion, and a lot of people voiced them. But the thing is, like, they weren't credible. Like, they didn't, like, they don't even make video. Like, there's nothing I can see to know that you are a credible person to tell me that what I'm doing is wrong. You know what I mean? Like, I'm in makeup school right now, and, like, that's pretty much why I haven't really had any videos up, because I've been at school. It's a long drive there and back, and I'm just exhausted by the time I get home, and I'm just, like, wanting to pass out. Plus, I haven't been sleeping well or anything like that. So, like, when I do makeup at the school on my partner or on my classmate, both of my teachers that are very credible teachers, they don't tell me I'm doing anything wrong. So it's like, who are you to correct? I don't know. I don't want to be that person, like, you can't correct me. You can't tell me that I'm doing something wrong. No, that's not what I'm saying at all. But it's like, you're not giving constructive criticism. You're just being rude and mean. And, like, why are you bullying a 20-year-old? You know, like, I don't know. But anyway, so I just wanted to get on here and kind of redeem myself. So I'm just going to start, and you always want to start with a base or a primer or something like that to create a barrier between your skin and your foundation. You don't want your skin to get breakouts. Like, my skin is breaking out really, really bad, and it's from the foundation that we use at school. I don't like the foundation at all. My skin has had, like, a horrible reaction, like, down in here, and, like, just big old breakouts. So you want to start with a primer, and a really good primer. So the primer that I really, really like, that's really, really affordable, is the Maybelline Baby Skin Primer. It's a really affordable primer. I think you can get it pretty much anywhere that sells makeup for like $7 or $8. It's a really good primer. It's silicone based, so it's a little bit more smoother texture. It's gonna create more of a smoother canvas, and I just pretty much squirt out like pretty much a quarter size, because I have a bigger face. And I pat in my cheek areas, because that's where I have the biggest pores. And by patting, you're pushing the primer into your skin, as opposed to just swiping like I do on the rest of my face. And I just push it and smooth it into the rest of my skin. And I have combo skin, so I'm pretty much dry all around here and oily, like, right in my nose area. So it's so hard to find a primer that you can use. I usually double up my primer, so I usually apply, like, a smoothing primer, something like the Baby Skin or Smashbox Photo Finish Primer, something like that, around the perimeter of my face. And on my T-zone, I usually apply the Becca Evermatte Priming Poreless Perfector Primer. But today, for the sake of the video, I'm just cutting everything down. I'm just going to use this one. For foundation, I'm going to go in with the Estee Lauder Double Wear Foundation, and I'm in the shade Sandalwood, which I think is a little bit too light for me right now. It's maybe okay, but I got this shade when it was winter time, so it was okay at the time. But, you know, as, like, dark-skinned women, or just women in general, your skin gets lighter in the winter and darker in the summertime. I haven't really shifted as far as skin tone yet, so I think I'm good. So this foundation is a really, really, really full coverage foundation. So if you don't like full coverage foundation, I wouldn't recommend something like that. It's really liquidy, and it's very matte. Not drying matte, but it's matte to the point where your skin will not look like an oil grease ball, which is really, really good. A foundation that I find is comparable to it is the Maybelline Fit Me Matte and Poreless Foundation. And it looks like this, and I'm in the shade Coconut in this foundation because it's the only foundation, it's the darkest range in that in that formula, which is really, really, really annoying, but don't get me started on drugstore foundations. That's a really, like, comparable foundation to the Estee Lauder Double Wear one, because the Estee Lauder Double Wear one, I believe, is, like, I believe it's, like, 50 something dollars, I think, I want to say. And that one, the Maybelline Matte and Poreless one is, like, 10, maybe 12. So there's a big price difference, but I am using my beauty blender to blot this foundation all over my skin. It is a more liquidy foundation, as I mentioned, and you could probably see it like dripping down my forehead and everywhere else that I applied it. So I like to use a beauty blender just in case it needs to soak up any excess product or anything like that. It can do that, and plus it just gives it a flawless finish, I find. So after I'm done with the foundation, you can go ahead and apply a powder if you want to. If you want to apply powder, you can do that. I've seen powders be applied 2 different ways. So powders can go on before your foundation if you have a really, really, really oily face and like you know that like the oil will break through. You can apply a powder on like with a flat top brush like this e.l.f. one. You can apply it and just gonna press it into the skin, and that way it'll soak up the excess oil. Then go ahead and apply your foundation on top of that, and then you can apply like a matte pressed powder or like your skin tone pressed powder, and just kind of like use like a fluffier brush where it's not going to deposit as much product, and just kind of blend it into your face like that. But if not, you can just apply a foundation on top of your, a powder on top of your foundation, just like usually you see people do. I'm not going to do that just because right after this video I'm going to take my makeup off, but usually I would apply the powder afterwards when I do want either full coverage or make sure I'm not oily, like if I'm going to be out all day. But neither one of those are the cases, so I'm just going to go ahead and use my concealer, and I'm using the Estee Lauder Double Wear Concealer in the shade Medium/Deep. And it has a wand, so I'm just going to kind of add some stripes here underneath of my eye. And this concealer is a really, really, really creamy concealer. It's very, very, very creamy, and you don't need a lot at all. So I'm going to go in with that beauty blender again. And like I said, it's really creamy, and it also dries really, really quickly. So that's why you only see me applying it underneath of my eye. And you do not have to have a concealer that is this light. This concealer is very, very light. As I mentioned, my I got this foundation or concealer and foundation when it was winter time. So this is pretty much my winter concealer. God, I can't even speak. But if you don't like something like this, which is as bright of a highlight as I'm using, by all means, use either something your skin tone range or a little bit darker than what I'm using. One other thing I want you guys to mention, just because I'm using the products in this video doesn't mean I either use this product all the time or like you have to go out and use this product. You don't at all. It's just kind of what I pulled out of my drawer today. And I'm also going to take that a little bit down the bridge of my nose, keep it about, and a little on my chin just to balance out that highlight, because before I applied it here you can see that it's really, really light under here and it just didn't look balanced overall. So you want to balance out the highlight just a little bit, and then just go ahead and blend that out. This foundation and concealer, if you need a little bit more coverage, I would recommend this foundation and concealer. It does cover very, very, very well. I have a lot of blemishes here in my cheek area, and I find that those this foundation and concealer does a very good job of concealing and hiding any blemishes or anything that I have. So what I'm going to go ahead and do now is a term called baking, and it's something that the drag queens have been doing for a very, very, very long time. Way before the Instagrammers and YouTubers have kind of found it and like made it really popular. They've been doing it way before, and it's just when you take your loose setting powder and you apply it with like a sponge or beauty sponge or a beauty blender or a Real Technique sponge or anything like that, and you just press it into the skin with a little bit of extra powder, and allow that to kind of cook and bake and settle into your skin and soak up the excess oils and everything like that. So I'm just going to grab my Real Technique sponge. I personally like to use my Real Techniques Beauty Complexion Sponge just because I don't like it as a beauty blender. I like to use my beauty blenders for my concealer and foundation and that only, so I usually leave the setting to this. And you can either use the flatter side, it has a more flat side, which will make it really easy to pack in here. I like to use the pointed side because I can get in every nook and cranny. So I have two different powders I'm going to talk about. The first one is an affordable one, and it's something that I found at Walmart, and it's so big. It's this Airspun loose face powder. It smells so divine. It's only $5. And when I saw it, I was like, oh my god, I need to have it. Some people don't like the smell because it is a little bit perfumey. I like it. It smells like an old lady perfume, but I like it because my grandma wears it. So I decided to get the translucent extra coverage powder. But you can, I think there was like a Naturally Nancy or something like that, which had a little bit more of a beige colored tint to it. I decided to go with this one. This one is a little bit like whiter, but not stark white. And then there's a Laura Mercier loose setting powder in the shade Transparent. This is a really good powder. It's a little bit more expensive. I think I got mine for like $36 at Sephora. It's really more expensive. This is 1 ounce, which is 29 grams, and this is 2.3 ounces and 65 grams. So you get a whole ounce and like a third more in the Airspun one for $5 than you do in the Laura Mercier. So more bang for your buck with the Airspun, but I find that this powder is a little bit better. I prefer it a little bit more, but it's a very good dupe. So if you don't want to spend all that money on this one, save your $31 and go and get this one at Walmart. So today I'm going to use the Laura Mercier just because I haven't used it in a while because I've been using that Airspun one. So I just tap it, smack the bottom of it so it'll have some powder here in the top of it. Then you can just shift some out. I don't know if you can see that, out onto the lid. And I take my beauty blender or my Real Technique sponge, and I press it into the cap. I usually do it out of the top, but I'm going to use it out of the cap just because it's a little bit smaller. And then I take it and I press it into the skin. I don't tap off the excess. I don't do anything like that. I don't press go. I don't collect $200. Nothing like that. I just take it directly underneath of my eye, just like that. And as you can see, it looks extra and like too much. But don't worry, we're going to fix it. I also take it up against the side of my nose. I don't know if you guys can see. This is a tip that I saw Mercier do. She said that that's a way to make your nose appear a little bit smaller if you do have a puttier nose. Because if you think about it, you're kind of, you know, giving it a slimmer effect. So I just started doing that recently. And I also drag it out to the end. I take a little bit for my chin and my Cupid's bow. And then I get the pointed edge for my nose, which you guys know is the more oily area. So I make sure I have a nice amount of powder. One other thing that I do, which is recent, is I take that same powder right underneath of where my natural contour line is, which your natural contour line usually is from the top of your ear and down. You can also kind of suck in your cheek or just press right up against here and feel where the hollow is, and that's where your contour line is. You can kind of see mine right here. So I'm just going to take some of that powder and just press it right underneath. Not too much, but just enough. And allow that to bake and cook as well, and that's going to give it a nice sharp defined contour line. And also blend that down a little bit so it's just not one like streak of powder. Not cute. And once again, this is more like a full coverage, kind of like I want, you know, that full glam type of highlighting contour. This is not something that's going to be your everyday highlighting contour, I want a natural beauty. Like, no, that's not this. I do have, however, a foundation routine like that, so I will link that down below if you find that this is a little bit too much and you're like, oh my gosh, she is so extra, what is she doing? So I usually let this sit for about 5 minutes. I'm usually Snapchatting during this time, or I'll just start randomly contouring just because I don't want to wait, especially if I'm in a rush. But it's really good to just allow yourself to allow it to bake and kind of cook and settle into the skin. I don't know if you guys can see that this has already started to settle, and like in my nose you can kind of see the areas, but I'm just gonna go ahead and Snapchat or something. So for contouring, there are 2 different options that I usually use. I use this BRC S45 Coastal Scents brush, which looks like this, which is a little flatter, a little bit more, I don't want to say like chiseled, but like just flat and skinny. So I usually use this for my nose when I really want like sharp nose, or I'll use it just to kind of outline where my contour is, so it's a little bit sharper. That's what I'm going to do today. And then I also like to go in with this Real Techniques contouring brush, which is dirty, and then just blend that out. So I'm going to start with this today, and I am using the Nikki Garrett or the Contour Shop's Contour Palette in Dark, and I will leave this link down below because I've heard some people say that they couldn't find it, and I'm sorry about that. I'm really bad about leaving like shades and names and numbers and everything like that in the description box, but I will learn to do that soon. So I'm just taking that right in my contour line, and then I also will flick it upwards. You don't want to go down because you don't want to mess up any of that powder or ruin the powder or the purpose for the powder. So you always want to blend upwards, not downwards. Plus that'll make it look a little bit more muddy, and we don't want muddy. You can also, as you can see, I go like this, and then I'll turn it more vertical, and then go like that, just to blend it out a little bit more. Also take that on my nose. I start with the sides of my nose, and then I take it underneath of my brow just to connect the contour all the way down. I also like to take it over the tip, but I'm going to wait until I blend my foundation or the powder away, which you can just take any type of like flat top brush or any brush or anything like that and just start blending that away. And then I'll take that same brush and just not as bad as that, but I will take that and just then taking my Real Techniques contouring brush and just start contouring the face. Don't want to go too far in. You usually want to stop at the end of your eyeball, and also take that underneath of your jawline if you want to. I'm starting to get like a double chin, so I am going to do that. Also around the perimeter of your face to add a little bit of shadow. If you have a larger forehead, you want to shade your forehead just to give it the appearance of having a smaller forehead. But if you have a smaller forehead, you don't really want to highlight. You can, or I'm sorry, contour. You can contour the sides of your forehead more so to connect down here. But if you have a larger or a smaller one, you don't really want to contour up here because you don't want to take away too much of your forehead, and then you'll be left with like no forehead. So after that, you just want to apply a little bit of color to your face, and the Wet n Wild Berry Shimmer blush, and these blushes are so pigmented, so you want to tap off the excess. I love a strong blush, but like these blushes, oh my god, and they're only like $3. I think I got them for like $3 at Kmart. If you didn't want to use an angled brush like this, you can also always use a dual fiber brush, like a stippling brush, something like this smaller one or something like these, a larger one, and just put it in there and like kind of blend it out. It'll sheer it out a little bit. But y'all know me, I love my blush and I love to be extra. So yeah, now that I'm like clown, I'm going to go ahead and highlight, put a little bit of highlight, put a little bit of shimmer back into my life, and I'm using the MAC Mineralized Skin Finish in Soft and Gentle, and I'm just applying this to the tops of my cheekbone, and it just gives a really subtle, nice glow. Also take that Cupid's bow and I also pop it on the tip just to give my nose that button feel above the arch of my brow. And I don't want to highlight too much because I have a large pimple here. But for as far as the cheekbones, I'm going to spray a little bit of water on here. Fan it out a little bit and then take a little bit more just to make it a little bit more dramatic. And voila! That is the end of how I highlight and contour. If you guys want to see how I finish up my face, then make sure you tune into the next video, or make sure you watch this makeup tutorial rather. And I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out.